Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 30th of January, now it's 10 to 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me share with you schedule for today's programming on my channels. So first of all, I will upload, of course, this first update on both channels, on YouTube and Rumble. Then later on in the afternoon, headlines, new episode of headlines on both channels again. And headlines is, of course, a short summary of the news that I will discuss in my second update on Patreon page. And this evening about 9 o'clock, live stream on my Rumble channel with the Telegram Reports program. Yesterday, live stream was very interesting. I was very much engaged in communication with the members of our community, and well, it was really interesting. And hopefully this additional programming will help me to reach wider audience and to generate additional interest towards my channels, especially Patreon and Rumble. But whatever the case, let's talk about news now. And first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. According to Russian media reports, Russian military channels, and reports of Russian Defense Ministry, there was no crucial changes on any of the sectors of the frontline. Russian Defense Ministry yesterday officially confirmed information that Russian armed forces established control over the village of Tabaevka, although this information is not secret. I did report about it for a few days ago, but we all know that Russian Defense Ministry is always quite conservative in its statements, and when Russian Defense Ministry reports that some territories become under full control, then that's how it is, really. There are no questions no more. This is Tabaevka, by the way. Ukrainian defense lines definitely are experiencing significant difficulties in this direction. Krakhmalny was liberated by Russian forces about a week ago, and now Tabaevka. I guess next direction of Russian assault will be Pishane, Berestove. Although Russian forces may move northwards towards Kupiansk to cut off this bridgehead here. It also seems logical. Let's see, in the next couple of days we will see which way Russian offensive will continue in that area. This is Kupiansk sector of the front line, of course. And when it comes to line of contact, Ukrainian forces are also experiencing significant difficulties on Krasny Liman sector of the front. To be more precise, in Tarskoye, Yampolovka, Terny area. And even though me personally, I don't expect Russian forces to enter these settlements, because if General Staff has no plans to conduct large-scale offensive operations, then I see these settlements as a good practical opportunity to create a trap from them, because Kiev regime will be forced to send more and more reinforcements in this area, and because of the high concentration of Ukrainian forces, it will be little easier for Russian long-range artillery, Russian armed forces in general, in this area to neutralize these additional units one by one. But, well, yet again, it all depends what kind of plans General Staff has. Maybe some kind of large-scale operation is in planning for February, who knows. And in that case, probably we will see some additional advances of Russian armed forces in Tarskoye direction. Also, of course, Belogorovka is a hotspot. According to some reports, Russian forward units of Russian armed forces are even on outskirts of the Belogorovka, which is a Seversk direction. And of course, Serебyansky forestry, very difficult terrain, very difficult area to conduct military operations, but Russian forces are gaining more and more territories under their control on daily basis, and the initiative basically is in Russian hands all along the front line. Another hotspot is, of course, Avdiivka area on the Donetsk sector of the front, but I don't know what will happen in upcoming days, but I personally do not expect any significant changes anytime soon, because, as I said, if General Staff of Russian Armed Forces have no plans to conduct large-scale offensive operation, then Avdiivka is an ideal spot, basically, to create a trap for Ukrainian armed forces, and therefore I think Avdiivka will remain in operational encirclement for quite a while, and we will see Russian decisive actions in this direction. About months or months and a half before large-scale Russian offensive begins, it seems logical to me, at least. On South Donetsk sector of the front line, main hotspots are, of course, Vremyevsky salient and the area between Vremyevsky salient and Ugledar, and also Novomikhailovka village. There were reports that Russian forces were advancing in this area, but this settlement is still disputed between the sides. No crucial changes in this regard on that sector. And when it comes to Zaporozhye sector, main hotspot is, of course, Rabotina, and this field between Rabotina and Verbovo. And yet again, we may see collapse of Ukrainian defense lines in this bridgehead at any moment, any time, and I guess military channels have a reason to expect that Rabotina may become under full Russian control even before end of this week. And when it comes to Kherson direction, as you probably noticed, Russian armed forces resumed heavy bombardment of concentration of Ukrainian armed forces in Kherson direction, and the main hotspot is still Krinky, by the way. Main hotspot is still Krinky, where Ukrainian armed forces are still maintaining small foothold, and also, of course, areas right next to destroyed Antonovsky bridge and railway bridge. Situation is under full Russian control, and always was under full Russian control. No surprises to be expected in this sector or any other sector really of the front line. Russian armed forces are holding initiative and increasing pressure little by little on Ukrainian units, and in some areas like Krakhmalna, Tabaevka, for example, on Kupiansk sector, also on the flanks of Bakhmut, on several directions, we clearly can see that Ukrainian defense lines are beginning to, I would not say collapse already, but beginning to crack. And this process will only intensify. And this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on the battlefield. I remind you, dear friends, that there is dozens of military channels that are providing much more detailed information about these local scale skirmishes and clashes on line of contact. And if you are interested in more detailed information, of course, I will recommend military channels. And well, that's been said, I will continue with additional news now. And RIA Novosti's report here that Russian armed forces, air defense systems of Russian militaries destroyed and intercepted, suppressed 21 Ukrainian drones during the previous night. 11 drones were neutralized over the Crimea. Also, 5 drones were neutralized in the Belgorod region, 3 drones in the Bryansk region, and 1 drone in Kaluga and 1 drone in Tula region. So Kiev regime is still trying to strike deep inside Russian territory, despite quite difficult situation that Ukrainian armed forces and Kiev regime itself is right now. They still have capabilities for long-range strikes, but as you can see, Russian air defense systems was quite ready to act, and area targets were neutralized. No reports about casualties on the ground or more or less significant damage. Also, RIA Novosti's report as I just mentioned minute ago, Russian Defense Ministry officially confirmed that Tabayevka in Kharkov region, which is Kupiansk direction, was liberated. And then, of course, this information, by the way, yesterday afternoon, right before I began streaming on Rumble, this news broke up that Zaluzhny was dismissed from a post of head of general staff of Ukraine, and you should see what was going on in Ukrainian Telegram channels, in Russian Telegram channels, because no one knew what the hell is going on. And well, basically we did find out what is true and what is not. During the live stream, I was constantly monitoring the situation on this topic, and well, at some point yesterday evening, press spokesman of Zelensky denied these informations that were circulating on internet that Zelensky dismissed Zaluzhny. So at least for now, Zaluzhny remains as head of general staff of Ukrainian armed forces. Although yesterday during that chaotic several minutes on internet when people were discussing fate of Zaluzhny, once again, number of channels did begin reporting that most likely Budanov will replace Zaluzhny. And, well, anything is possible, of course, but you know my take on this topic. I think Budanov is has no education to become a head of general staff. Budanov is just a murderer, mass murderer, and a terrorist, and without any qualification, really, to be a head of general staff. And therefore I find it difficult to believe that Budanov will be appointed by Zelensky on if and when Zaluzhny will be dismissed as a head of general staff. Most likely, especially, by the way, one more reason is that Budanov's camp and Zelensky's camp are also in the fight. So it does not make really any sense for Zelensky, even for Zelensky. If Budanov was his ally, then okay, that's different stuff. But they are also fighting between each other. Most likely, if Zaluzhny will be replaced, will be dismissed, most likely head of Ukraine's ground forces, General Syrsky, will replace Zaluzhny. Most likely. After all, Syrsky has good relationships with Zelensky, and that may be one more indicator that he is most likely number one candidate to replace Zaluzhny. But there is another point also. And well, we have Lenovost's report here that according to media reports, including Ukrainian media, Zaluzhny refused to step down. Zelensky asked him to stand down, did not order, did not dismiss him, but just give him a recommendation to step down, according to media reports, and Zaluzhny refused to do so. And well, there are speculations now that Zaluzhny demanded to be appointed on some other high-ranking position if he will leave general staff, but I find it difficult to believe in this, because no matter where he's gonna be appointed, his camp will lose this battle with Zelensky's camp if he will leave general staff right now. Therefore, well, it's interesting to monitor what will happen, but one should always keep in mind that Ukrainian armed forces are supporting Zaluzhny, and all he needs is just one statement, and Ukrainian units will enter Kiev, will take control over the Bankova district in the capital, and well, they will remove Zelensky quite easily, really. They can remove Zelensky quite easily. It all depends how much support Zaluzhny has from from its Western backers. In this particular case, from UK, because he is asset of UK's intelligence service and militaries. He has close ties with the UK. But whatever the case, for this moment, Zaluzhny remains on the post of head of general staff of Ukraine. But things may change. Quickly. Zelensky and his camp on daily basis are attacking Zaluzhny and his camp. And who knows, maybe Zelensky will risk and remove him from the office. Let's see, TASS news agencies report here that during the interview with the IRD, German TV channel IRD, Zelensky stated that Ukrainian armed forces have about 880,000 military personnel right now. During this interview, he basically acknowledged that kidnappings are taking place in Ukraine from enlistment officers when they are basically kidnapping people on the streets and forcefully mobilizing and sending to the front. So that was quite interesting to see that Zelensky is acknowledging this. Of course, for us, it's nothing new, but for a majority of Western society that are under influence of this Western propaganda, well, for them, this information may come as somewhat surprising, because propaganda, I guess, telling people in the West that majority of Ukrainian society is queuing in to take up arms and fight for Zelensky and for democracy and freedom and I mean, usual stuff. But in reality, there is very few people in Ukraine that really wants to fight and die for Zelensky, his criminal associates, or their Western masters. And when it comes to this number itself of Ukrainian army, 880,000 people, well, I'm a little skeptical that this number is correct. Although I think Ukrainian armed forces may have 4 or 5, maybe even 600,000 military personnel. But even if 880,000 is more or less correct number, just take a look at the map, by the way, and line of contact. This is line of contact from Kherson to Kharkov region, and then Kiev regime is of course forced to keep quite significant number of military personnel on the border with Belarus, on the border with the Bryansk region of Russian Federation, Belgorod region, and therefore this, in this regard, I mean, this line of contact is not just more than 1,000 kilometers, it's several thousand kilometers. And 880,000 people, military personnel, definitely is not enough to sustain, to conduct offensive operations, first of all, on this long line of contact or front line. And 880,000 people are definitely not enough even to conduct more or less effective defensive operations, sustainable defensive operations. And that's why Kiev regime is now actively working to forcibly mobilize another 500,000 military personnel, because line of contact from Kherson to Kharkov is about 1,000 kilometers, isn't it? And Ukrainian units are too stretched. They are too stretched. They are unable to effectively operate, basically, and therefore they need more people. And Kiev regime is actively working not just inside the Ukraine to kidnap people and send them to the front, but also with European states and officials from Kiev, basically openly asking European states to don't give financial support or social support to Ukrainian refugees in Europe, so that military age men will be forced to go back to Ukraine. I don't think this will work. But these kind of statements we did see from Kiev, isn't it? calls for European states to cut down on financial or social aid for refugees, especially military age refugees. And yesterday during the live stream we had discussion if on Rumble, by the way, we had discussion if Zelensky has in its disposal 880,000, why he needs another 500,000 military personnel. And that's why, I mean, front line is just too long. And we should always keep in mind that majority of Ukrainian armed militaries are forcefully mobilized and very poorly trained. And this is, of course, also a big issue. Well, that's been said. Let's continue with the additional news. And TASS News Agency's report here that Pentagon and State Department send inspectors to Kiev, to Ukraine, to conduct monitoring of Western aid, how effectively Western aid is used, including military aid. But because it's election year in US, I don't think these inspectors will find anything, any wrongdoing on behalf of Zelensky's regime, obviously, because Biden's administration don't really want to hear any bad news from Ukraine. Therefore, this is just, you know, media operation. Nothing will come out from this step of Pentagon and State Department. When in reality, of course, we all know that Kiev regime and because of the high level of corruption in Ukraine, in state institutions, we all perfectly well informed that significant number of military equipment is unaccounted in Ukraine. Thousands of pieces, basically, are missing, and no one knows where those pieces are. Even manpads, by the way, even manpads, which is a mobile air defense missile. So if manpads are missing, can you imagine what else is missing? TASS News Agency's report here that Netherlands made decision to provide Kiev regime with additional aid for 122 million euros. This time, this aid is supposed to be for cybersecurity and to provide Kiev regime with additional munition. Okay, of course, it will not change much on the front line when it comes to final outcome, but will definitely further deteriorate relationships between Russia and the Netherlands, if there is any relationships at all at this point. TASS News Agency's report that head of State Department Blinken made a statement that US begins to see consequences of decline of military aid to Kiev regime, and of course Blinken is talking about Biden's military aid package that is still not being voted in the US Congress. Republicans still are refusing to vote for this aid package, 106 billion aid package, in which 61 billion is supposed to be allocated for Kiev regime. And well, I guess in upcoming week or two some agreement will be made between White House and Republicans. Biden's administration will agree to implement some defensive measures on the border, on the southern border, and in return Republicans will most likely vote for this aid package. If you remember, dear friends, I was saying from the very beginning of this story that US military industrial complex and corrupt officials not gonna miss this most likely last big paycheck from Ukrainian crisis, from Ukrainian story, and therefore they will use all their influence to make sure that Republicans will vote the right way. And they will just give them a week or two, and military industrial complex will receive maybe not 61 billion, but at least 30-40 billion for sure. And well, let's continue. TASS News Agency's report here that EU ambassadors ambassadors of EU member states come to final agreement on topic of stealing Russian frozen assets. In this particular case, profits from Russian frozen assets, well, they will make some recommendations for governments of their countries, and I guess it will not take long before EU's final decision will become known, which is, of course, Russian frozen assets to be stolen. Oh, obvious. I mean, of course they're gonna steal it, man. Of course they're gonna steal it. Then first they will start stealing profits on Russian frozen assets, formally to support Kyiv regime, of course. And then they will begin stealing frozen assets themselves because, I mean, that's what they do for centuries, those corrupt generational so-called elitist families, or families in the elites. All their wealth and influence is based on stealing, robbing, killing, and, you know, and worldwide for centuries, by the way. That's what they know, and they cannot help themselves. They cannot change. They see something to be steal, then they will steal it. That's news agency's report here that, well, one more reason to, I mean, I don't know, dismiss UN, man, just as a totally ineffective organization. US did not issue visa for a high-ranking Russian diplomat who was supposed to travel to New York to participate in work of UN. And this is not the first time Washington does this kind of stuff, not issuing visas for Russian diplomats. I mean, at this point, I mean, nothing to even comment here. US is garbage. US elites are garbage. And that's it, really. Best decision they can make now is to, I don't know, relocate headquarters of UN. Of course, no one gonna dismiss this organization, but at least relocate headquarters, because this is crazy, man. Diplomats cannot enter UN because formally it's on US soil, and this is not the first, and I believe not the last time when State Department in Washington is basically acting as a morons and are not issuing visas for diplomats. They have no issue, by the way, southern border to be open and millions of illegal immigrants to flood United States. They are okay with that, but they have issues to, you know, give visas to diplomats, not just for Russian diplomats, but for diplomats from all the countries that they don't like. It's a regular stuff, by the way, and that's why I'm saying US ruling elites are garbage, total garbage, by the way. And UN itself is a garbage, man. I have no respect for that organization at all. They are... Why they even exist, man? What are they doing? Really, I mean... Did the UN achieve anything ever for last, I don't know, 2-3 decades? I mean, just give me an example that UN was successful in something. Anyway, let's continue. Artist report here that NATO is planning military Schengen. This topic is not new. I did report about these ideas that are circulating in NATO member states to create this military Schengen, so that military units from different countries will move around Europe without additional, let's say, bureaucratical issues. Well, from military standpoint, understandable move, and I believe this initiative is to become active formally. Of course, they will justify anything by mentioning Russia. That's it. But in reality, I believe NATO countries, NATO militaries are preparing to occupy Western Ukraine once full-scale disintegration of this failed state begins in fairly short time, and to do so, to rapidly deploy forces into the Eastern Ukraine first, and then to Eastern Europe first, in Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Hungary most likely, and then to Western Ukraine. Of course, they need some agreements, at least inside the NATO, that this military personnel will move freely, at least through some corridors that will be created for them, so that they will occupy Western Ukraine in fairly short time. That's all it is, by the way. This biggest exercises that supposed to take place maybe already begun in, or it will begin in February, if I'm not mistaken. Biggest military exercise of NATO since the Cold War. Some 90,000 NATO military is gonna participate, if not more. Thousands of pieces of military equipment, and the rest of it are report about that exercises, upcoming exercises, and that exercise is also our preparation to occupy Western Ukraine. And this topic of NATO Schengen or military Schengen is also connected with upcoming occupation of Western Ukraine by NATO member states. Let's continue, and RT's report here. RT's report that well, one of the Russian MPs, Alexei Zhuravlev, made a statement that Russia should put nuclear weapons in Cuba. Well, did he ever ask Havana how they feel about this? I mean, some hotheads are not just in the US, but by the way, but or in other Western countries. Some hotheads are quite active in Russia also. Let's read several sentences. Russia should place its nuclear weapons in the friendly countries near the US in response to Washington's alleged plans to move its own tactical arms to Europe, lawmaker Alexei Zhuravlev has suggested. His comments came after the Telegram reported on Saturday that the US is looking to deploy its nuclear weapons in the UK for the first time in 15 years in order to counter supposedly increased threat from Russia. Well, I don't know about US. They may deploy weapons to Europe, and both European states, including UK and US, they are NATO member states. They have some agreements on this topic, but to say that Russia should put some weapons, nuclear weapons, in Cuba and other friendly countries around US, like where? In Venezuela? This is, totally unrealistic, let's say this way. You may be not happy that US may put some nukes in Europe, and you have every reason to be angry on that, or to be cautious for that development. But to call Russian government that Russian nukes supposed to be deployed in Cuba, in some other countries, this is not realistic, man. Why you are spending time on this topic? I don't know. But as I said, man, some hotheads are everywhere, and this individual, Alexei Zhuravlev, is sometimes does make quite strong statements. I have no idea why. Maybe he's entertaining public with this, I don't know. But of course, Russia not gonna deploy its nuclear weapons in Cuba, man. Did anybody ask Havana? Do they want Russian nukes on their soil? I don't think so. And I don't think it's in Russian interests to have nukes in Cuba. Why? Russia has quite a number of intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach any point on this planet in like 30 minutes with multiple, and each missile has multiple warheads. And I'm saying nothing about hypersonic weapons and so on. So why should Russia bring nukes to Cuba. From military standpoint, it does not make any change at all. It makes Cuba more vulnerable. That's all. You know. So anyway, let's continue. TASS news agencies report that NATO believes that Russian victory in Ukraine will push China to become more aggressive against Taiwan and conduct some military operation. Yet again, if China is not provoked, if Western ruling class will not provoke military confrontation between China and Taiwan, there will be no military confrontation. China has all the time that it needs. China is rising, global South is rising, and collective Western world is declining. So time is on China's side. So why would Beijing escalate with Taiwan? I mean, it does not make any sense whatsoever. Very different story is if China is provoked. But then again, who gonna provoke China? Only force we know that are capable of that is the Western ruling class, isn't it? So who they are trying to, I mean, these NATO officials, who they are trying to scare or lie to. Whoever wants to be well informed has enough options on internet to receive good enough information to realize that, I mean, all this talk, man, that China gonna attack Taiwan and so on, it's crap, man. It's total crap. China has all the time that it needs to resolve issue with Taiwan peacefully, politically. Why would they escalate, man, if are not provoked? And if China demonstrated anything for decades, for last, I don't know, man, you name it, 3-5 decades, is that they are extremely practical. Extremely practical. Anyway, let's continue. Of course, this is not the first and not the last time when Western ruling elites, Western organizations trying to disinform public that there is a real threat that China gonna attack Taiwan. There is no such a threat. No, non-existent. China don't need, man, to attack Taiwan. Why on earth they will do it? It does not make any sense whatsoever. They can wait another 10, 20, 30 years, 50 years if necessary. Time is on their side. You know? And they demonstrate that they are strategic thinkers, man. Look what China managed to achieve in last 20, 30 years, man. It's impressive, isn't it? With all these initiatives, Belt and Road and with this economical expansion worldwide and stuff, man. They are strategic thinkers. They don't operate on current daily stuff only, and they definitely don't operate on emotions. But anyway, let's continue. TASS news agencies report that according to Politico, US may target Iranian forces in Syria in response to attacks on US bases, in particular because of the attack yesterday night on one of the US bases, as a result of which three US military personnel was killed and a few dozen wounded. And well, yesterday, a number of other media outlets, Western media outlets, also reported that Biden's White House is considering attacks not just on proxies or so-called Iranian proxies in the region, but also directly on Iran, which is going to be, I mean, huge escalation, of course, huge escalation in terms of Middle East. And I don't think anybody can say that there is 100% no risk that US will Biden's administration will attack Iran and provoke regional war. Because, as I said many times in previous updates, I'm 100% sure, 100% certain that Western ruling class wants to, one way or another, but wants to provoke regional war in the Middle East, to shut down shipping in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, so that China will be cut off from one of the major sources of energy for Chinese economy. So I would not be surprised at all if we will see escalatory steps from Washington, including targeting Iran's officers in Syria, or maybe directly Iran. Anyway, let's continue. Arty's report here that Russia's planned gas pipeline to China hit by delay, according to Mongolian PM. I did spoke about this news in headlines yesterday, headlines program, and during the in second update also, and during the live stream, because it's an interesting topic, which is about Power Siberia 2 project, gas project between Russia and China. This pipeline, Power of Siberia 2, is supposed to go through Mongolian territory, and of course Mongolia is in between China and Russia. This is Mongolia, by the way. And according to Mongolia's prime minister, Russian and Chinese experts are still working on this project, and most likely sides are discussing financial stuff, because the Power of Siberia 1, which is already operating between Russia and China, was built years ago when gas prices were significantly low than now. And well, I would not be surprised if Gazprom wants to negotiate better deal for itself and for Russia, as they're supposed to do. And if Chinese side is not agree to pay right amount of money for Russian gas, then well, okay, there will be no Siberian Power 2, and that's it, end of story. But eventually, of course, Chinese side will pay right price, because I don't think they are in the position to push Russia. Even if they think that they are in the position to mess around Russia, they are not, and will never be. So they should always keep that in mind. So if Russian side thinks that some adjustments supposed to be made price-wise in this contract, then that's how it's supposed to be. And I don't care if Chinese side is happy or not about it. I just don't care about China at all. I mean, I just don't care, man. If they act friendly towards Russia, okay. If they're not, then, TASS News Agency's report here that, well, Prime Minister of Georgia, by the way, yesterday in the headlines, I did share information, and then I did spoke about it in second update also, that according to Georgian media reports, during the daytime yesterday, Prime Minister of Georgia, Garibashvili, was planning to step down and take a position of head of ruling party in Georgia, and the ruling party's leader, Irakli Kobakhidze, supposed to take a position of prime minister. And well, yesterday evening, media began reporting that Prime Minister of Georgia basically stepped down. He did not wait for 1st of February, maybe because information became available for public. He made decision to step down right away. So I guess Garibashvili is no longer Georgia's prime minister, and he will be replaced by Irakli Kobakhidze, who is once again, Kobakhidze was head of ruling party, Georgian Dream, and now Garibashvili will be leader of that party, and Kobakhidze prime minister. I don't know why they did it. I mean, maybe people get a little tired with the current prime minister, and to make some, shake up, to make some changes, reshuffle. This decision was made by ruling party. And by the way, I remind you that recently, Bidzina Ivanishvili, creator of this ruling party, Georgian Dream, returned to the politics. So most likely he was not really happy with some stuff. Although in general, I think government of Georgia is quite successful, unprecedentedly successful, if you take into account last 30 years of Georgian history since Soviet Union collapsed. So I would not be too critical of Garibashvili. Well, let's hope new prime minister, whoever it's gonna be, Kobakhidze most likely, will continue this policy of not aggravating relationships with Russia, not escalating with Russia, this pragmatic policy. And well, in that case, Georgia will, only win, and Georgian public will benefit from that. So let's hope there will be some disturbances in Georgia. And I remind you, dear friends, also that in October, if I'm not mistaken, in October this year there will be parliamentary elections in Georgia. So maybe this shake-up in the government has something to do with the upcoming parliamentary elections, also most likely. So. Well, when it comes to Georgia, I'm originally from Georgia, and all I want is to see peace there. All I want is to see peace in that country, and hopefully current government, which is yet again, by the way, quite successful, especially if you take into account what was going on during the previous decades since Soviet Union collapsed. Hopefully current government will manage to continue this pragmatic policy, keep Georgia and Georgian society safe, further develop relationships with Moscow, because it's very important. It's very important. And hopefully current Georgian government will not allow the so-called opposition in the country, US-controlled so-called opposition, to destabilize situation, conduct some regime change, and then use Georgia against Russia as a second front, as they openly basically are saying that they will do. So that's the main stuff. The rest of them, who is a prime minister, who is not, it's not really relevant that much. Artists report here that Russia to launch a nuclear power reactor in India this year, according to Rosatom. So Russia's State Atomic Energy Corporation, Rosatom, plans to commission the third unit at India's Kudankulam nuclear power plant this year. The company's chief executive, Alexei Likhachov, revealed in the weekend interview with the TV channel Russia 24. Well, great news, very great news for India, India's energy security, and great news for Russia, that once again demonstrates that when it comes to peaceful nuclear energy, Russia is #1 player on the world market. And currently Russia is building number of nuclear reactors, number of nuclear power stations worldwide. In India, in China, I believe, in Turkey, in Bangladesh. There are some reports that Russia may build nuclear power stations in several African nations. So, and it's very important because I believe civilian nuclear power definitely has a future, and it will become one of the major generators of energy for humanity in upcoming decades. Main generator of energy, I will say. Although, of course, some countries like Germany are trying to move away from nuclear energy, but this is a big mistake on their part. I mean, German government is, I don't know, man, German government is operating very strange ways. Sometimes it definitely seems like they are intentionally destroying Germany. And I guess it's not just me, but also German citizens may feel this way, that they have government that intentionally destroys Germany. Anyway, this is it for now. A quite long update, but hopefully you will find this video interesting, and if so, please click that like button. Leave some commentary about any topic you like. More likes and comments will, I guess, help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience, especially on YouTube, by the way. YouTube's algorithm is immensely aggressive and broken basically at this point. And if you can, please share with links to my videos or my channel with your friends. That will also, of course, help to reach wide audience. And well, if you think this channel, this project with several channels, several programs is interesting, useful, informative, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, buy me coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.